and the women's movements in India. And she arrived in India in the mid-60s, did a PhD on the non-Brahmin movement in Western India, married a Kunabi person there, and is a naturalized Indian citizen. Thank you, Gail, for agreeing to be in conversation with your fellow traveler, Angela. She is currently the Dr. Ambedkar Chair at the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Now to Professor Davis. Over the years, Angela Davis has been active as a student, teacher, writer, scholar, and an organizer. Currently, Professor Emerita at the History of Consciousness Department at the University of California, Santa Cruz. She is known internationally for her ongoing work to combat all forms of oppression in the US and abroad. Professor Davis was active during the civil rights movement and associated with the Black Panther Party. Despite persecution during the McCarthy era, she was twice a candidate for vice president on the Communist Party USA ticket during the Reagan era. Think about it, the first annual lecture was delivered by a man who also ran for office in Slovenia, and lost. This will be a tough act to follow for someone to qualify to deliver the third Navayana lecture. Professor Davis' political activism began in her teens, but it was not until 1969 that she came to international attention after being removed from a teaching position in the philosophy department at UCLA as a result of her social activism and a membership of the Communist Party. In 1970, she was placed on FBI's 10 most wanted list on false charges. An intense police search drove her underground and culminated in one of the most famous trials in US history. And when we approached the USFE very early on to seek help for funding with her, they simply refused. So not much has changed after Obama, I felt. During her 16-month incarceration, a massive international Free Angela Davis campaign was organized that had supporters even in Pune and among the Communist Party members in India, leading to her acquittal in 1972. She has since been an advocate of prison abolition and has developed a powerful critique of racism in the criminal justice system. While reading her, it occurred to me that in India we rarely seem to have studies of the caste demography of our own prisons, though one is quite sure that social minorities, Dalits, OBCs, Muslims will be preponderant there. It is not as if Professor Davis has not been exposed to debates around the caste and race question. She was in fact present at the 2001 World Conference Against Racism in Durban, where she was taking up the cause of prison abolition, and she told me that she heard several presentations of the Dalit caucus there. It is in the hope of splicing open the interstices of caste and race that we have Angela Davis delivering this lecture today on contemporary quests for social justice. Gail Omvedt shall engage Professor Davis in a dialogue subsequently. There'll be, being a public lecture and the kind of the auditorium that this is, there won't be any Q&A. I shall take my thank yous also now. This lecture would not have been possible without the support of CWDS, Center for Women Development Studies, and Mary John in particular, and in turn ICSSR and IRDC, Savitribai Phule Women's Studies Center in Pune, and especially Sharmila Rege there, who responded most enthusiastically when I mentioned the words Angela Davis to her. Thank you everyone at IPDA, our distributor, for putting up the magnificent stall outside, and India Habitat Center for the overly planned conduct of this evening. And I suppose more seats would have been taken, we have to blame Binayak Sen, where we went in. Some of the people are there, an equally important issue. So over to Angela Davis. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me say that it is truly a great honor to address you this evening. And I'd like to thank Anand and Navayana Press for having published two of my books, one older, one more recent, and for having enabled this visit to India. I'd like to express my gratitude to all of those who assisted in the organization of this visit. I've only been here a few days, but it feels as if it's been so intense. It feels as if I've been here a very long time. I'd like to thank Mary John and the Center for Women's Development for their role in enabling this visit. So, I am really quite humbled to be here in India, and as Anand said, in a sense I feel as if I've been trying to make this trip since the 1970s. Because I remember when I was in jail and facing very serious charges, I was aware of the campaign that developed here and saw photographs and received letters and petitions from India. And I thought then, I will have to make a trip to India to personally express my gratitude to those who participated in the campaign. And so here I am. Let me say that I'm, again, very humbled to be here and humbled by your presence. And I hope that the words I offer facilitate further contacts and solidarities between progressive communities in our two countries in the tradition of W.E.B. Du Bois, who emphasized the importance of Afro-Asian solidarity as a pivotal dimension of the internationalism which he thought could potentially destabilize imperialism. I was referring to the fact that I wanted many decades ago to personally express my gratitude to people here in India who participated in the campaign for my freedom. And for those of you who don't know, I was falsely charged with murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. All three charges were capital charges. And serendipitously, just as I was about to leave my hotel room, I looked at my email and received a message from the grandson of the prosecutor in my case, who wants me to tell him about his grandfather, who passed away many years ago. And so I might tell him that my first encounter with his grandfather was in a courtroom where I heard him announce that he wanted to seek the death penalty 3 times in my case. And so I thought to myself, you can only die once. What can that possibly mean? Well, anyway, I'll think of something to say to him. But during that time, of course, people in India passionately participated in campaigns to free other political prisoners in the US and in other countries. As a matter of fact, this is a tradition, as I was saying yesterday at the first event for Dr. Binayak Sen, that there were solidarities expressed for the Scottsboro Nine in the 1930s, the Rosenbergs in the 1950s, and other political prisoners. Indeed, it seems to me that the struggle to free political prisoners has been a central and indispensable element of the larger struggle for justice, equality, and freedom. More recently, there are political prisoners who have asked for or who can truly benefit from global solidarities. Mumia Abu-Jamal, who has been facing the death penalty for many, many years now. And there is Leonard Peltier, the indigenous activist, Native American leader, who is one of the longest held political prisoners in the US. I want to say that I hope that we in the US can properly reciprocate at a time when international solidarities are needed to address the plight of political prisoners in India. When Barack Obama addressed Parliament during his visit last November, he brought greetings from what he called